Okay, our timer has officially gone off. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Now, as you can see, today we're going to be talking about different ways to have quick, fun, formative assessment, and we're going to be focusing on one specific tool inside of Lucid called visual activities. In the chat, if you are familiar with visual activities, or just give me a thumbs up or thumbs down, yes, no, how familiar you are with them as we're getting through. We're going to go through a couple different examples of how you can use visual activities for formative assessment, as well as show you how to make them from scratch or from one of our templates, and then also how you can send those out to your students, making them quick and fun and easy for you to kind of see in the moment where your students are at, what they're understanding, all of that fun stuff. Okay, so to start off, we're going to start with one example that is a icebreaker. So these are also great for really easy, quick, fun icebreakers. Poll the class, get students talking. So this first one we're going to go over is animals you would like to be. I'm going to send a share link in just 1 second. Once you get in here, you'll click the big blue start button, and then you'll drag each of the animals into definitely, maybe, or no way. And then you'll click the big blue submit button at the bottom. All right, so to share, especially for your K1-2, you can embed them in the board, just like you see I have here. Or what I love about these is you can just grab the share link in the upper right-hand corner, and this will copy a link directly to this one activity. And mine is wanting to not copy, so I'm just going to copy and paste this into a different board. And hopefully that'll get me that share link. Okay, there we go. So I want anyone with the link, just in case you're not familiar with logging in. And then I'm going to go ahead and click on copy link. And then you can send this link out however you would like to students. And you'll notice instead of coming into the full Lucid Spark board, you will actually go into just this activity, which is why I love it for K1 and 2 because they're not distracted by all of those other tools. All right, so without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and put this link into the chat. Go ahead and click on that link in the chat, click on the start button, and then go ahead and drag those animals out. Very excited to see which animals we definitely want to be and which animals we do not. Now you can see as you're turning it in, view results. I've got all 3 results. And then as the instructor, this is where that data comes into play. I can click on view results. I love pulling these up for morning meeting or anytime we're trying to have a discussion to kind of pull out some of the students so they can look at the data and be like, oh my gosh, I find it crazy that all 3 of us are a maybe on the moose. Let's talk about that. Or I thought that I definitely wanted to be a B, but nobody else said they wanted to be a B. And so it kind of gives them a data point to pull out and kind of make that ease into a verbal conversation a little bit easier and a little bit more exciting for students. So with that in mind, looking at this, we'll see there's also the overview where you noticed I hovered over each image and you can see everybody's icon of where they put each of these images. And then you can also come down to the objects view. And from the objects view, you'll actually get a bar graph that you can click on and it'll show where everybody put this item. So all of us are a solid no way on the crocodile, a solid no way on the snake, and we're a solid maybe on the moose. So we had three different things where we're completely aligned. And then the rest of us, we start having some difference of opinion. We have two of us saying no way for the B and one saying maybe. And then this, where we start seeing the differences, is a great moment to kind of bring in that conversation. So, for example, me, why would I not want to be a B? They work so hard, and I just don't want to be working 24/7 all the time. And then we can kind of spur that discussion. Same thing, you'll notice we've got some no ways and a definitely. So here we got a huge split decision. Want to know, go ahead and add it in the chat. Why are you a definitely no way? I'm a yes because my I get to sit on a pillow. Maybe my owners will even dress me up in pretty clothing. It feels like living the Chihuahua life is pretty good. There's lots of great comedies. Star saying it looks a little mean. For me, it's just, my fun personality coming out, right? So as you can see, again, great way to spur discussions, get students talking. The data is great to pull from. Agreed, Mary. I would not want to be stepped on. That would be a downfall for being a Chihuahua. So hopefully I'm a quick Chihuahua in my younger years. So that's a quick, fun example of how you can use it for an icebreaker. And now we're going to move into our second activity, which is this one actually has correct and incorrect answers. So for this activity, we're thinking about we were reading a novel and you want to kind of see where students are at with their quick understanding, maybe from the chapter, from the book, or from the lesson that day. So you have different matching activities where the students will drag each character into what is the correct answer for that character. So again, you could invite them to the entire board and they could click on the start button within the board, or you can click on the share button in the upper right-hand corner, and then students can come into that share experience. Now, for some reason, my links aren't working in this board, so I'm going to copy and paste it in here and then grab that share link. And I'm excited to see if we've got some Potterheads with us today. So let me grab the link to this specific activity, put it into the chat, and then go ahead and drag out and match each of the images. Now, this time I won't do it since I know the correct answers, and I will just wait to see what your answers are. Start a quick 1-minute timer and give everybody 1 minute to match the character to the correct description or fact about that character. 30 more seconds. If you're feverishly Googling, perfect, Star. I'm excited. No worries. We didn't actually read the book. All right, perfect. So now let's see if Star, not having read the books, how well she did. So when we click on view results, you'll see here again, we have that overview and it'll show you consensus on the overview. So both of you have said that Ron has a pet rat. Pats on the back, you are correct. And both of you said that Dumbledore loves sweets. Again, pat on the back, you are correct. And then we're split on becomes Minister of Magic and saves Ginny Weasley. So then if I come into the objects, I can look at that bar graph specifically and see each of my students and where they're putting the options. So for the correct answer, so we can learn a little bit about Harry Potter, Hermione becomes the Minister of Magic, and Harry Potter saves Ginny Weasley. Okay, so now you can see here where it's connecting to correct answers. It doesn't auto grade for you, but you can see here very quickly how you can see what the correct and incorrect answers are. Okay. Now, the last example before we go into how do we make these, some videos on some actual classroom examples. One last fun example to try out ourselves. This one, we're taking it down to lower grades, but we also have a bunch of matching activities similar to this for vocabulary and definition matching. But here you can see we're working on a phonics activity. During practice stations, always had sorting activities, different worksheets like this, but I never had time to really grade all of those. So what I love about these are you could give the students a couple different links or a board with a bunch of different activities on it. They can work on those during practice stations, and then quickly at the end of the day, I can just go into the data and see, is the majority of the class getting it, or is the majority of the class not? So rather than spending a ton of time grading every single worksheet to get that quick overview, I just look at the data, get a quick, in the majority, are they getting it? Are they not? Is there one student who's really needing some extra help and attention? Making that so much faster. So for this one, when you click on the start button, you will drag each of the letters up at the top down to the correct category. And then when you're done, you'll go ahead and click submit your response. Now I'm guessing it's going to not want to work for me yet again. I'm not sure what is going on with my board here. This is a board that I've had around for a very long time, so it might be telling me it's time to make some updates in there. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and grab that share link one last time. Go ahead and click on that link, and I'm excited to see where your phonics and phonemic awareness are at. Hopefully very strong. And quickly go ahead and drag those. And mostly I just kind of want to show you again what that data looks like when you go into review. So I'll go ahead and start my timer one more time and let you go in and start dragging those into the board. Also, the timer does have music, which is really great when you're in class and maybe connected to your classroom speakers. However, it doesn't work through Zoom. So just want to let you know, if you ever want to have cool pop music or lo-fi beats or classical, when you start a timer, you can add music to it and play through your classroom speakers if your computer is plugged into sound. We didn't even need it. We were strong, awesome phonics and phonemic awareness friends. Sorry, I taught first grade for a long time, so I call everybody friends. Let's go ahead and click view results. And then right here, this is where I get that quick. All right, dog, mop, pot, stop, hot, log, clock, sock, top. Majority of my classes got this. No need to reteach this whole group. And so I can just move on. So as you can see here, really quick, really easy way to kind of pull and review that data. Yes, and you can embed it into Canvas. However, I'll show you at the end some ways that you can put it into Canvas. You can embed the collaborative board right there on the Canvas page. However, for students, you might want to add the link if they're K1 and 2 so that they go into the streamlined experience rather than going into the board. And that's just kind of your teaching instruction. So I'll show you both in Canvas at the very end. Okay, so now the next thing we're going to go over is just hopefully start to spark some ideas of different ways that you can include this in the classroom. The first one is to springboard a class discussion, and we're going to watch this quick video, and then I'll show you how you can also repeat this. So let's go ahead and in this class example, we're going to quickly talk about how you can use a visual activity to springboard and deepen a class discussion. So this first one, we're going to be having a debate about whether students should wear uniforms in the classroom. So to start off that discussion, I'm going to look through the visual activities, and I'm going to find that left to right scale, and I'm going to drag that onto the board. Then I'm going to double click in here and change the title to ask the question, should students be required to wear uniforms to school? Then since this is my main question, I don't have much else to add. I'm going to go ahead and make it a little bit bigger and just change the sizing so we can make it a little bit larger for the students. Okay. Then you'll see to add an image. So I'm going to go ahead in and look for students in uniform. And I'm going to pick from the choices, drag them on, and just kind of put it in this image section the best I can. And then I'm going to go ahead and just delete this image in the background. I just want this main image. Okay, make sure to check my spelling. and add my question mark. And then down at the bottom, I'm going to look through and I see, make sure that these go with the question. So I'm going to, instead of extremely likely, I'm going to say strongly agree. Somewhat agree, unsure, and then somewhat disagree, and strongly disagree. Then once I have this customized the way I would like, I'm going to go ahead and save those changes and lock down this activity. Then when you share it out to students, you can bring them into the entire board using the blue share link, just making sure that you have it set to be edit access so they can come in. And you always want to have it edit access even for this second way of sharing. So you can use this link to bring them into the entire board to collaborate with multiple activities on the board. Or if you just want to send them this one activity, still set the link up to be edit access, and then grab the share link for the activity. And this will bring them in direct. Okay, so we already saw that. So that gives you an idea. So just to kind of re-talk about how we set that up, when you are, well, I'll start from scratch. From Lucid Dashboard, if you click on the plus new button, you can technically put these in Lucid Chart and Lucid Spark, but I tend to put them mostly in Lucid Spark. So I'm going to go ahead and add a new blank board. Then just like you saw in the image, the rocket ship is where you find all of your visual activities. So if I click on the rocket ship, then you can select any of our pre-made templates to start from. There is also an education section. If you click more categories, there's a K-12 specific section. And then you can go through and find any of those different examples just like you saw in the video. And for example, that one was, I'll show you just a different example. So this is a math example with a problem solution matching activity. So in here, again, it comes out to be editable. So I can come in here and edit any of these problems. I can change the font, the size, all of that fun stuff. I can come in here and change it instead of being the solution being 3. I'm going to have my solution be 6. Oh, we already have 6. Maybe it's 10 or 20. So you can come in here and you can change anything that is in here. If you only want to have 2, you can delete any of the items you don't want on the canvas. And then the big thing that you have with visual activities is you'll notice here, if the box or item has a green hand, it's going to be draggable during the activity. And if it has a gray hand, it won't. So green hand draggable, gray hand not. So essentially you can make whatever you want just with that fundamental idea of green hand draggable, gray hand not. And then a lot of times before I'll push it out to students, I'll click on preview and complete the activity just to make sure that everything is working appropriately so that once they get in, I didn't forget to make something draggable or they can mess something up. So I always use that preview button just to test it out. And then when you go back to edit, whatever you did in the preview, it'll just reset. You save those changes. And then like you saw, if they're getting into your actual board, either through a share link or by being embedded in Canvas on the collaborative page, make sure to lock it so that students don't accidentally move it, delete it, or change it. So always lock it if you're getting them into the full board. If you're just using a share link in the upper right-hand corner, then you don't need to lock it because they won't have access to the full board. They'll only be going into that one activity. So that is just kind of the example there. And I have one more video or 2 more. I'll see if I want to show that one. Okay. So 2 more very quickly. I probably won't show the same example, but just you can see a different way of that you can use it in the classroom. Maybe it'll let me play it. We're thinking.
In this lesson example, we're going to talk about how you can use a visual activity to kickstart the inquiry process with fun activities that get the students interested, excited, and questioning in order to drive continued learning and research. So for this first example, you can see the teacher set up a true or false based on facts about the moon. So when the students come in here, they will drag each of these over to what is true and what is false. Then they can view the results, see how the class thinks about what is true and false, and then the teacher can send them to the articles, the internet, books, and have them figure out and prove with evidence which ones are true and false. And then finally, the teacher can unhide and we can go over, after that research process, the answer key of what is real and what is not. The next activity we have is similar, but this one, the teacher has the students come in, and to kickstart a unit on animal adaptations, they drag out which animal goes with which adaptation. Then again, they view the results to see what the majority of the class thinks, has a discussion about that, and then they can research and figure out with evidence which animal goes to which adaptation. And again, we have that answer key so that the teacher can reveal this and they can confirm if their research and initial thinking was correct. And then the last example is related to group names, if they are real or fake. So similar to the first activity, they will look and say, is this the real name of a group of spiders, or is it a fake name? And then just like the other ones, they can review the results, see what the majority of the class is thinking, and then research in order to find evidence to prove what goes where. And then again, the teacher has that answer key to fall back from. These activities are really great to get.
Perfect. So just to kind of show you some of those, we had the true, false, and a big thing in there was hiding. So in case you hadn't learned about hiding yet, I will show you that as well. So let's say I'm going into my rocket ship, and we had a lot of those that were like true, false. So right here is a true, two truths and a lie, which will work because I have a true and false. Or I could use what went well today because it has that red and green that we could just update. So I'm going to go ahead and drag the two truths and a lie out onto the canvas. And again, everything is customizable. So I don't need the items in the top. I am going to change. It's not truth. Instead of truth and lie, I'm going to say true. And I'm going to say false. And then I don't really like these emojis anymore. So I'm going to delete the emojis. And then in here, this is where you can use the image search, and you can search images to drag onto the canvas. So I might have a green check mark, and then I'll drag a green check mark onto the canvas, resize it. And now this one I'm going to keep gray. I don't want them to move my green check mark, so I'm not going to change it to the green hand. I'm going to leave it gray. Then I might search for a red X and drag that onto the canvas. And then I'm going to change my title to be the instructions for the activity. And then I can go back. You saw a lot of those were very image focused. I think images really get the student's attention. So I'm going to come down to my images. And again, I can search anything. So for those examples, again, I could look up a pack of dogs. And then I drag the pack of dogs onto the canvas, resize them using the white boxes, might make it a little bit bigger. And then this is where I want to make sure that this is green so that when the students get in here, it will be draggable. And then again, I could look up the images and I could look up a cat, whatever you want. Again, drag it onto the canvas, resize it, and click that green hand to make it draggable. If you also had images saved to your computer, you can use the import option here and import images, or you can just drag them from your desktop onto your Canvas as well, or from your Finder. So again, the moral of the story, green hand draggable, gray hand not. So hopefully that gave you a couple different ideas of ways that you could use this for quick formative assessment, for inquiry, to kickstart a lesson, to get students ready for discussions, all of those fun ideas. And for the last 5 minutes, we have a couple ideas. We have a couple questions about, oh, perfect. Thank you, Mary. So we'll go into Canvas in just a second. So now I'm going to save the changes. Or before I save the changes, the way I made the answer key, I went into the preview, I completed the activity, I took a screenshot of that activity. I went back to my activity, and then just like you asked, how do I get this in? So I'm just going to open up my Finder, go to my recent, pull my screenshot onto the canvas. So now I have my answer key. And this is what I did. I right click on top, and you can add a frame around a selection. And now a frame comes with this eyeball feature that allows you to hide or unhide content. Now, another way to add a frame to the board is you can also go to your frames section on your toolbar, click on frame, and then you can click and drag around a section of the canvas. And again, I'm going to right click and arrange. Do, 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 do. Arrange, send to back. It wanted to hide. And you can then again click on the frame, click on the eyeball, and that hides your content. And then when you're coming back in here, you can just click on it again, click the eyeball, and it will show your canvas as well. Now, I know it's you guys were 2 and 3, so you may know this already. When you add frames to the board, you can rename them. So I can double click and say this is activity. I can double click on frame here and say answer key. And then this gives you a table of contents at the bottom. So I can click to the activity, I can click to the answer key, and it allows you to navigate through the board. And then last but not least, one thing you always want to do as the instructor to give yourself more control is click on the 3 people, come down to make me a facilitator, and then come over to controls. And you can toggle, I just always toggle all of these on. This means that only you, the teacher, can start and stop the timer, vote, private mode, showing authors, locking, and hiding. So now only you, the teacher, can lock and unlock or hide and unhide. So Mary, I think that gets your question. If you have the frames locked and you are hiding something, and last step, click the 3 people, come down to make me a facilitator, and then use this facilitator panel to come over to controls, toggle all of these on, and now only you, the teacher, can turn things to be visible or not visible because you are the facilitator of the board. So that was the one last step. Always, always, always make yourself that facilitator and turn on those controls. And then last but not least, how can I get this into Canvas? So let me just quickly get into Canvas. There's 2 ways that you can do it. I'll show you how you can embed that collaborative board right there on the page, or how you could put links in. So in your course, when you're in a Canvas course and you go to a page, so I'm just going to quickly go to pages and add a new page. You can name your page. So this will be my visual activity topic. And then you can use the black L from the rich content editor. This will pull up your dashboard and you can find that visual activity that you made. Hopefully, we'll see if my internet will allow us to work today. But you would pull and select that activity from your dashboard that pops up, and then it will automatically embed on that Canvas page. So let's try to see if it lets us do it this time. Okay. All right, my internet is deciding not to work, but essentially it's very self-explanatory. Oh, there we go. Cancel. Your dashboard will pop up. You will find your activity. So here is my activity that I want to use with students. And now it will, you want to keep edit because you want them to be able to complete the activity. Insert, and now it'll put that board embedded on the Canvas page. So when students come here, they can click on the big blue start button and they can complete that visual activity for students. I mean, students can complete that visual activity and then you can get in and see the data. Apologies, my internet is deciding it wants to be nice and slow, but you'll see it embedded right here. They'll click the blue button, but the big thing here is they will be able to move other places on the board. So because I'm embedding this actual whole board on the canvas, they'll be able to move around, they'll be able to use the tools. So they'll be able to do that. If you don't want them to be able to see the tools, to move around the board, then that's where you can grab the share link, copy it, and instead of using the black L on the canvas, you can just paste. So I'll delete this. You could just paste activity number 1, and you can then add a link to that, and the students can go through and click on each of the different links listed on your activity. So for example, if it was a practice station page, they could just come in, click activity 1, complete the activity, click on activity 2, complete the activity. And again, the reason you want to do that is if you don't want them to have full access to a whole Lucid Spark board, it only brings them to just the Lucid visual activity. Maybe one day we'll have just the ability to embed the visual activity, but currently, if you only want to restrict them to only that one activity, you have to use the link sharing. So hopefully that helps give you 2 ways. And then yes, Gwen, we will send out a recording with additional resources that you can go in, try it out, have some fun. So last but not least, apologies we went over. Any questions that we still have related to using visual activities for formative assessment? Okay, perfect. I'm not hearing any questions, so I will send all of that in a follow-up email. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Monday, and thanks again for coming. Bye, everyone.